It's just.
Anything she's changing, it's just those things are giving her.
This is the theater, it's loaded at, and it's not.
I mean, for us, it's around this town.
Yeah.
Busy.
Good.
Correct.
Evening and welcome to the regular town council meeting for February 17th, 2026. I'd like to call the meeting to order and ask everybody to join in the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ask you to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Moving on to item number 4, adoption of the minutes. I look for a motion from the council to adopt the meeting minutes from January 6th, 2026.
Make a motion, we adopt the regular meeting minutes held on January 6th, 2026.
Moved and seconded. Are there any questions, concerns, or comments regarding the meeting minutes from the audience or the council? Hearing none, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of adopting the meeting minutes from January 6th, 2026, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. The adoption of the minutes have passed. Moving on. We have no public hearings, no presentations, so we'll go on to the town manager's report. Yeah.
Few things going on. We have a section of power line that's town owned. I think most of you are probably aware that goes from the transfer station out to the wastewater pump station out at Tultoma. It's about 1.1 miles. And so I scheduled a meeting with CMP field planners to look into what it would take for CMP to take that over as their line, which would keep the town from needing to do really future upgrades to it or repairs if something happened. So they kind of did an assessment, and it's in relatively good shape. And it would be very timely for us to do a few things in order for CMP to take that section of line back. There's a fee that they have to calculate, basically the depreciated value of it. That actually just came back today. That's less than 10,000. That's less than what they had expected. Very little to do to the line itself. I think there's one guy wire that needs to be replaced. But the main thing would be to trim to their specs for 3-phase power, which is a setback from the pole and then basically ground to sky trimming. So it's not just trimming up to the line, but everything above the line. So that would be the major piece. But one thing to do that. What's that? We didn't just trim that line back.
They never did it.
Not to the 3-phase spec. It didn't go quite far enough back.
Oh, they trimmed it, they just didn't.
Yeah.
trim it far.
Yeah.
All right.
There's some trimming done for sure. What they did mention though is that in some cases, they would require like a pole upgrade and actually wire upgrade in order for them to take it. But in our case, they wouldn't require that because what we're tied into isn't that way. We're basically contiguous to what we're tied into. But if we were ever in a situation where they upgraded their end, and then we went to them and said, we'd like you to take this back, we'd have to upgrade to a more tree resistant wire and bigger poles. And so it would be a timely thing, I think, going forward and, to I think, plan for. And so that, we have that information, which I think is valuable to us. Update on the brownfields work that we've been doing. One of the major pieces we're ready to bring to conclusion. fuel tank, the fuel tanks at Public Works is actually scheduled for removal next week, Monday and Tuesday. The contractor will be in under brownfields to remove the tanks through the program. And should, have that completed next week. The former garage, Ford garage site assessment in phase 2 actually on that, which included some soil sampling. That's nearing completion. And we expect the draft report to go out to the review agencies, the EP and EPA, over the next few weeks. And then the former redemption center property, which is tax acquired, is in the phase 1, which is basically starting the process of historical assessment. So that'll move through, and the theater brownfields is complete. Reports done, and basically now it's a source to base funding requests from. So we were able to bring that to conclusion. I think pretty close to the time, a little bit after, but pretty close to the time that the ownership changed hands with the theater. So we've got that one wrapped up. We may have noticed we haven't got sewer bills out in the mail yet, but we're hoping to do that this week. We had to go back and look at a number of accounts that we didn't get complete reads on the first time, but we expect that we'll get that out the door and we're able to get with our billing side and on the read side and get that straightened out. Something that's I've heard Caleb at the airport talk about is kind of an antique up there, and the FAA finally reached out to us. There's what they refer to as a non-directional beacon that's been out of service for several years. It's kind of an old style. It's not used by any aviation anymore, and the FAA reached out to kind of officially decommission it because they like to get things that aren't used off of the books. And so we started that process. We'll actually formally kind of remove that as an airport asset. It hasn't worked, and it's basically an antique. We've actually had people reach out and say, "I'm a collector. Is there any way to maybe obtain the beacon someday?" And so we'll see how the FAA wants to handle it. But, and I just wanted to mention that the public works crews done a good job keeping things running this year. They've had a few breakdowns, but they've been able to get things back out. The one thing they're trying to get back out on the road now is the Volvo Wheeler. They're dealing with a transmission issue on that, but they're hoping that they can get that resolved pretty quickly before the next time I need to push on it. So that's what I have.
Awesome. Quick question on the brownfield for the public works. Is that fully funded by brownfield or house?
So there's two funding sources for that. One is brownfields, and the other is we are a participant in the state's insurance program for tank removal. So if we have any cost, it would basically be the deductible, and I believe that's a $5,000 deductible. If we have any cost, it would fall into that. And I think our budget was more than triple that, so we're gonna be way under budget. So.
Right. A lot better than some of the prices we had been hearing.
I have a quick question. So where does the intended solar farm fall into that power line that's supposedly ours?
They would basically be hooking on to a CMP line if CMP took it.
Isn't it only, so is there after our line or?
Yeah, it's after.
That's
Or is it
after.
on? And Rusty, do you know if is it on the line or is it after?
It's right at the beginning of the line.
Oh, that's what I thought about, yeah. So they would be looking to connect into
Correct, and they would
our
have to,
existing one.
yeah, they would have, well, and they would have to update
Yeah.
the 3-phase. Correct.
No, it is 3-phase.
Oh, okay, so yeah, they
The
would
line
be
is 3-phase.
connecting in and then moving,
Like normally they have to upgrade lines,
Yes.
usually for solar.
yes.
Yeah. So how does that tie into if we own the lines?
We would, if we wanted to keep owning the lines, then I think we'd have to work out something with the solar project to pay for the whatever upgrades would need to be done to it for with the 3-phase they need. it is three-phase now.
Yeah.
So,
Ideally, we get this on the agenda soon and have
Yeah, 'cause
that
I
not
was-
be our line anymore.
Cause I
As
saw
soon
when
as
they're
possible.
getting ready to start their project, right, I saw somewhere.
I assume tying into lines happens pretty late in the process. Maybe,
I don't know.
I'm thinking that's part of the, probably mid to late construction phase of the project to do that.
well, worth finding out, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we just want the line to become CMPs. We certainly don't want to be on the hook for upgrades and maintenance and every other thing.
Not only that, how do they tie into our line if it's not a CMP line?
Well, I think maybe it would just be attached to the poles, even though their own line, you know, in other words, we may just have to give them permission to attach to the poles. There are poles, with whatever line CMP would require. I'm just kind of speculating.
Yeah, I mean,
But then we'd be, if we're owning it and then we lost a pole, we'd be hiring somebody to go fix the pole to restore power for, you know, ourselves, for them.
certainly, I don't think we're gonna want some other entity tying into our poles or our lines or any other thing. If they're gonna tie into anything, it should be CMP, but ideally, everything's CMP, so. But that's a good question.
It's something to think of when we're.
Yeah, because if we want to go that route, I don't know if it's. Is it in the current budget to do something like this, or, I mean,
No.
We'd have to-
We'd have to get a price on the trimming and then, you know, see where we go from there.
okay. Any other questions, Pete? Anybody else have any questions? For Jay? All right, moving on.
More of a comment. So out in West Pittsfield, there's been a few road signs, stop signs, reflectors hit by the plow at some point. On the, and as a housing road, get cleaned out on both sides. So I'm not really concerned about who's financially obligated to take care of it, but I think you should probably just get some stop signs up and people aren't going through it. Dead end road, doesn't see a lot of traffic, but I think it's pretty low liability, but
We want the signs put back.
yeah.
Anybody else? All right, moving on, department head reports are in our packet. Appreciate the lengthy explanation of all the different things you've got going on with code enforcement and whatnot. Good to see some things happening and moving forward. I know it's been a slow process, but it's a good process. Yep, good, appreciate it. Moving on to old business, there is none, new business. Nicole, can you please read order 2604, please?
Order that the owner of 231 Somerset Avenue remediate the dangerous building as ordered by the town council.
Look for a motion from the council. Anybody?
And we adopted her 2605.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Jack, you want
Yeah,
to
so,
run with this?
this is, the hearing, where we would invite, anyone, the owner to speak on behalf of 231 Somerset Avenue in terms of the finding that the town has made that there are dangerous conditions on the property. And then the council can, articulate, you know, any additional, requirements, beyond what's already presented in the order or make changes. And then the council, would need to kind of spell out what the deadline for these, actions by the property owner, what the timeline needs to be for them. The 231 Somerset Avenue.
Okay. There was a little bit of background and history sent to folks on 231
Yeah, so he was,
Somerset Avenue.
The property owner, yeah, so the property owner sent me an email because he said he could not be here. Building was designed and built by Harold Walker, some initials on the front of the building. When he bought the building, he took it on with a promise to Dwight. I'm assuming the former owner that I would do everything in my power to restore it. Doesn't happen, sorry to say. He said health issues, things weren't turning out as expected. We may not be aware of his efforts over the past year. Realizing that the owner wanted to get it done, I've called and visited many roofing companies to put on the last of the steel as such, A&L Roofing, Pinette Roofing, Emery Roofing, Kennebec Roofing, and more. And I've said to other CEOs, I'm more than willing to hire someone if they came across one. This past summer, I had an individual who promised to do it. He still owes me, so I lost money and the job didn't get done. I'm open to suggestions or ideas. And then he talked about having the town back at some point in time, provided him with trench waste to spill. And talked about thinking that he was gonna get more. I'm not sure really about that. But so he's made efforts to try to address the building situation that we've had in mind.
Yeah, I mean,
It's been a slow process. I've heard everything and anything under the sun. We haven't gained any ground on the building.
Right.
This is the next step on moving forward with things.
sure.
You know, he understands the town's gonna do what the town needs to do, moving forward, so.
Yeah. And a little bit of background, this was before Jack and you, Russ, and
Yep.
I think everybody on, even myself, like maybe you were on council, but this property was going to the courts, and then either COVID happened or something, I think it was COVID that happened, and that kind of put the kibosh to all that, and then I think the gentleman did end up getting injured on the property, so the council gave him kind of a free pass at the time, you know, trying to help him out, seeing that he was doing some things, but this was, you know, 5 years ago at least. And since then, obviously, we've all seen that there hasn't been much progress with that, so this isn't a new issue, and it was one that the town was concerned about 6+ years ago at this point. And, you know, it's been an open roof for 6+ years, I can't imagine it's that safe, so I guess I would take all of that into consideration when we're coming up with a plan to handle this situation. Obviously, we want to try to work with people, but at some point, it's on them, and they either need to fix it or sell it or tear it down or do something, so.
So is there a suggested deadline for?
I was leaving that up for him and you guys to discuss if he showed up tonight. I would say 90 days if we're starting to see progress. If, you know, and then he can come back in front of us and address it then. But if we're still at the same spot as right now, then the town we'll talk with the attorneys and take legal action and go that route.
Is it common or appropriate to request that, or part of this stipulation is that he gets a structural engineer to verify or certify that this building is structurally safe? So, I mean, you can put lipstick on a pig all day long, but at the end of the day, it's still pig, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't,
The council at the conclusion of this hearing would be free to make that part of the order, that there's a. You could order that the building is removed unless there's a engineering report certifying that, you know, structurally sound. You know, and what this does is when you set the deadline for something to happen, if that deadline passes without that happening, the council can revisit it and say, well, we see substantial progress, so we'll extend the deadline, so forth. But if there isn't anything happening and you don't extend the deadline, then after that passes, then the town has the right to go on and make those corrective actions itself. And then we can assess a special tax on the property to recoup the costs that we have in doing whatever that thing is that we feel we need to do to make that property safe, which is really the point of this proceeding.
So tonight we need to set a deadline and set some of the stipulations or criteria that needs to happen
Yep.
for the gentleman to move forward.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's the first thing we require is some sort of engineering analysis that this building can be saved and should be saved or something like that. I don't know, you know, the legal lingo for that, but
Well, does town have any liability? He indicates in his email, if you read through the lines a little bit,
yeah.
he's trying to indicate that we're not doing what we said we were gonna do. Is that true, or are we?
That's his perspective, that he feels that we had given him some fill material at some point, and I don't know when that was.
There was trenching done. Remember there was a sewer, culvert or something over there?
But I don't know if there was any, I'm not aware that there was any additional material or any additional things promised other than delivering fill and.
Right, which is a common thing that, you know, everybody, or a lot of people ask for. If you got fill left over, dump it here. I don't think it's up to the town to spread and.
Right, we would put it in a location that.
Right.
Yeah, sure. Ask for it.
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
I just think reading way outside the lines, talking about erosion upstream, talking about if we have an engineer go in there and say, hey, this house is fit to be lived in or not. And geez, it's not fit to be lived in because that's erosion issues, well, those caused by the town of Pittsfield, right? This like,
Yeah.
this game of
yeah, you can see that.
deflection all the way through, but
Yeah.
this guy's, I mean, seems a long time at this, I mean, that house has been in bad shape for a very, very long time.
Yeah. Yeah, I got that sense from his email as well. The way he painted that, picture. But,
So what's
I mean,
the
I guess,
usual protocol for a situation like this?
For dangerous building.
I think we're setting it.
It's been done before, I don't wanna create something from scratch.
Well, we just passed all those new. The dangerous building,
Yeah, this is the
Process.
statute, this is the statutory
Oh, okay.
process.
Okay.
So, you know, and our attorney went through the notification process to give notice to the property owners. So now we're at the hearing and obviously if the property owner was here, he'd be able to speak, you know, in person, but he did provide this. So now it's really just a matter of specifying, you know, actions that the property owner needs to take at a time frame.
In 90 days is what you've seen from your experience.
I would say 90 days is reasonable to hopefully gain some kind of ground, and if he needs more time, he can always come back in front of us and address it then.
But reality is, it says truck is burned, and his house is burned, or his truck is destroyed, and can't get it all. You can't get to this meeting, right?
We don't have to worry
And
about
we can
that.
stretch it another 90 days,
right, yeah,
if that's a nice thing to do, but I just don't feel like there's gonna be.
Legally. You
Yeah, we don't
have to,
legally, we just have to say, how much time do we give them to get a roof on it, like, do we set a milestone and say, all
That's what it
right,
sounds
Yeah,
like.
there's no roof on this thing in 30 days and. Or
Yeah.
60 days,
Yeah, I mean-
You could, exactly, you set a milestone and a deadline, and you could say something like, within 90 days, you either have to have the building removed, be it tear down. You could deliver us an engineering report saying that, that is structurally sound. Or you can repair everything that's on the list that Russell submitted that needs to be done, which is a new roof. You know, but you still might want the engineering report because, like you were saying, you could dress it up with repairs, but you could still have an underlying structural issue.
right,
But I mean, it's really that type of thing, is, you know, removing the structure or something short of that, which might be an engineer's report and then certain actions taken.
He asked if there were any liens on
Yeah,
the
the
property.
lien, the property taxes paid.
I don't know if there's any liens, but it's not a foreclosure. It's, still privately owned, so there may be some liens on it, but that would be,
That'd be a private, not a public.
there would be, there could be, I don't have the most updated list of whether we've liened it. It's, you know, that we may have liened it, but,
I guess my question is he paying his property taxes? Is someone paying his property?
he's paying enough property taxes, so we've not expired any liens on it, or done any foreclosures on it.
Definitely.
Is this the first notification to him?
No, he's had multiple, we've been in touch for the past year and a half, almost 2 years.
Then, and with that information, I agree that I think 90 days is a long time. I would support something within 30 to 45 days,
45 days to put a roof on it.
or get a report, or move.
Or
Some sort
start
of-
tearing it down.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it is middle of February too.
But if
So,
you can't get a roofer, it's not gonna be a better time to get one than right now, not the middle of the summer.
yeah, and I mean, you can get it. Like, the roofers are available. We're not gonna provide you one.
I thought about that, I mean, like, we're gonna do the construction service here, I mean.
Right, yeah. Yeah,
Jack
yeah,
House inside.
so I think
I trust them on the roof.
so in 60 days, we have another meeting, right? In middle of April. Is that? Give them 60 days, provide an engineered stamp
That's fair.
I think
report,
that's fair.
like
too.
signed, engineered, PE stamp, whatever. Give us a report, start tearing it down, or fix all the things that Russell's laid out.
Mhm.
But I think that report's still required, like all due respect, like, that's, your report is what you see from the outside.
Yep. I understand.
That engineering report is what I care about more so.
Yeah.
Cause you put lipstick on a pig, then somebody buys it and, I don't know, just don't wanna deal with that.
Yeah.
I think it would be nice to know.
Is that lot buildable? Like, if that house got torn down, could you build another house right there?
They would have a 1 year grace period.
They would.
Yeah, they would.
So it'd be like,
Same thing with the house that burned on
Yeah.
Somerset Ave.
so there,
That's why they haven't torn it down yet. It is in the process of transferring ownership right now.
But I mean, as far as being so
But-
close to that drainage or stream.
Yeah,
or
with
whatever you wanna
DEP and everything, they still have a 1 year grace period.
To rebuild, you mean?
Yeah,
1 year first to rebuild?
yeah, once they demolish the existing
Right.
structure
To complete a rebuild or to start?
to start.
Oh.
okay,
Like, best case scenario, comes up with a good engineering report, put the roof on it, and this thing looks like a peach, right?
Yeah.
That's what you want.
I'm
to
good with
happen.
that.
I mean,
that's what we
the
want,
goal.
that's why we're doing what we're doing.
I think that's fair.
All right, what does this resolution need to, or order need to?
So it's, so what it is it's kind of a fill in the blank one, and so Nicole is penning in whatever you,
So I can read you what it says and then, you know, like what you were thinking and see if that works for you.
Sure.
So we have on the check off, all the actions for secure the building, including not limited to boarding openings, fencing, and access points, preventing entry. And then repair and rehabilitate the building so it no longer constitutes a dangerous building. And then repair broken windows, secure doors, repair roof, and remove or repair front porch. And then add an engineering report. And then the deadline part is actions shall commence no later than the blank day of 2026. And be fully completed no later than the blank day.
So 60 days from today.
We'll
Right,
start with
so it
today.
should
Today's the hearing.
commence today and.
Mhm.
17th of February.
Yeah,
And I'm guessing our meeting in April is, well, I guess you just go 60 days, but. Or can you just say a date? Go ahead.
we should specify a date in the order. This order will actually get, once it's signed, it'll get filed in the registry.
Mhm.
Because if he were to turn around and sell it this would be available as in a title search to a buyer that this has an order on it.
Okay,
So this will get filed with the registry, but can I also suggest that we don't give them 60 days to secure it? Like maybe part of the order is that we just go secure the doors, so that nobody can actually get in there right now.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, I wouldn't even give a deadline anymore because that's a dangerous condition. We don't want people to be able to go into that building as a
Yeah.
vacant building and.
And I'll
so
look
basically
over
the
it
things
here.
that Russell specified other than replacing the roof, but securing the building needs to happen immediately. And then everything else is,
And I'll take care of that, and then he's responsible for the cost, correct?
and that's
They'll be
within,
responsible for the cost.
that's within Russell's
Scope,
scope of.
Yeah.
You do.
It's the
okay.
town, I mean.
Right,
Yeah.
you wear a hard hat, we will.
I'm just, yeah, okay,
Cover it, you know.
Looks good.
just don't wanna cross any line, you know, with it.
So do you want
Okay,
to
so it'd be-
separate out the secure the doors, do you want to separate that one piece out? Cause it otherwise it's saying repair broken windows, secure doors, repair roof, repair.
Or you could just note on there, exception is securing the building, which the town will do immediately. Yeah, securing is gonna be, access inside.
And all the other actions would have to be completed by April 21st, 2026.
21st,
I think that's when our meeting is. Pretty
That's when
sure.
our meeting is. Do we need to count out 60 days though? And
I think we can just stay a date.
Well, it doesn't have to land on the meeting, 60 days from now would be the 17th, right? Oh, pretty close. Yeah. Because then we're gonna know afterwards whether it's done or not.
Yeah, okay,
No, I said I would.
Oh, okay, I'm like,
Well, I'm good.
yeah,
And then we talk about it again, the 21st.
Yeah, talk about it, but the deadline can pass before the meeting.
well,
so 60 days,
Mm-hmm. From today.
and whatever that is,
Yep.
is the deadline.
and it may be back on that agenda. If it does, well, if no progress is done, does it just
It'll
default to something else?
It'll probably be on the agenda either way, because
Okay.
either we'll be saying that there's things happening. And whatever Russell learns about it, or we'll be back saying that, you know, we haven't received certain things or whatever.
Okay,
So it'll be an update no matter what.
all right. Are there any questions, comments, concerns from the audience? Hearing none. Any other comments from the council? Kind of all understanding what the plan is? All right, and since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of order 2604 as described in the order, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it. Order 2604 passes as written. Moving on to order 2605, Nicole.
Order that the owner of 135 Main Street, remediate the dangerous building as ordered by the town council.
Look for a motion from the council.
It's not adopt, what is it? It is,
Yeah.
I make a motion that we adopt order 2605.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Jack, do you wanna tackle order
So this,
2605?
this order pertains to 135 Main Street, the building next to the theater, actually next to the theater. I understand that the conditions center around damage to the roof of that building that we're aware it sustained a couple of years ago. And we are now seeing that there's actually bricks that are falling off the building, and I think they're ending up on the theater roof. And so there's a concern now about the damage that the compromised roof has caused to the building itself. And the order would be to take steps that center around that roof, whatever damage inside moisture would have caused. So Russell can elaborate on that, I guess, if I really haven't covered everything about it.
Yeah,
So as we're all aware, the roof caved in, or kind of blew up in the wind a few years back, 3 years ago now, yep. It's been a work in progress with the previous owner. It's been passed down to a few different owners. Until recently, progress has been being made. The owner is now here tonight, actually. And he is trying to rehab the building. I'm not sure where he is as of today with things, but it needs to be addressed with the loose bricks, hanging over Main Street, falling onto the theater roof. You know, I'm sure he's made some progress. I'm not sure, like I said, where we're at with everything. But we needed to move forward with that roof and getting things under control.
all right. I would assume, are you Bruce? or Nathan?
New owner. Yeah.
You're the new owner?
Bruce was the former.
Okay. Is there anything you'd like to discuss or
Yeah, absolutely.
let us know about?
So we actually, are in an agreement on the building across the street as well. This is a before and after of the property at 117. We operate differently than the former owners of the building. We actually get stuff done. We're about 90% done with demolition inside 135. We have a very little bit left. All of the debris material, sheetrock, walls, everything has been taken out. So that's not a condition anymore. This tonight, this is she just passed me a notice that you guys gave to Bruce back in October. I had never even seen this. I didn't even know that there were bricks that were loose up there that were a condition. I can fix that tomorrow. I mean, that's not a problem. I can take the loose bricks off of there. The plan is, we already have a quote and we already have a plan in the spring to repair the small section of the roof that had some boards that had blown off of it, and to repair the structure up there. If there's any loose bricks or whatever, we can do that in the spring as well. We just need to wait for a little bit of warm water. This is a proposed design of the building. We want to put a restaurant in the downstairs. We want to put apartments on the second and third floor. And we want to do some nice lighting outside. We want to make it a centerpiece for the town. I've been renovating buildings since 1999. I know what I'm doing. I know how to do it. Never had any trouble, never had any problems. So I haven't received any notices at all until about a week ago. I got a notice that we were having a hearing and I was like, for what? I didn't even know that this was going on. So this is all new to me. I haven't received any notices as the owner. So I would just ask for an opportunity to, Russell hasn't had to bother me to fix the building next door. I just did it, right? I don't want it looking bad. I don't want it dangerous. I don't want problems. I don't want headaches. I don't want anybody having a dangerous situation ever, right? It doesn't help me. So I operate differently than I understand you guys have had headaches there for years. It was obvious when I went in, nobody had done anything. Nothing. They literally hadn't touched anything. And so I am taking corrective measures. We have a full-time staff over there that is taking care of these things. I'm gonna be working with an engineer on the roof to make sure that everything is safe. Ron Roderigo is somebody that I've used in the past. And I would just ask for a little bit of time to repair it and make it beautiful and make it a, productive building. I mean, it's right in the middle of it, and it's a beautiful property. We have plans to do some pressure washing on the front of the building. We'll bring back the original colors and take the street marks off of it. We've already worked with Newport Glass. We're going to be getting the new plate glass window that's been busted out for I don't even know how many years. I've lived in Plymouth for 4 years now, and it's been busted out ever since. And so I would just, like I said, I am not Bruce Blackmer. I operate differently than the former owners did. I took, as a matter of fact, I think I had my permit within maybe 2 days of taking the building. We went right in and just started work. We're not gonna play games. We're not gonna milk this thing. It doesn't do us any good to keep this thing vacant or leaking or anything. we've already put a tarp up there to temporarily slow it down. But like I said, tonight is the first time I even knew that there was a brick issue. So I'll have them go up tomorrow and take the loose bricks off so that that is not an issue at all. And then we will take care of the roof, as soon as the weather permits. We'll get up there and we'll fix it. Needs a few pieces of plywood and some stuff done. It looks like the structure is safe, but I'll make sure that it's safe. Like I said, none of the boards look rotted. There is no major anything there that looks, catastrophic. I've been doing building for a long time and I've taken a lot of buildings that are trashed. This building next door was pretty bad. It was, the basement was caving in, the foundation was caving in. We had multiple leaks. We had all kinds of drainage issues. We've had a lot of different things that we fixed there. And
What do you know with that building?
Yeah,
we don't know yet, for sure. Originally, we wanted to put apartments in it, but then he said no, because it's the first floor. He wants a commercial business there. So we're still kind of in limbo on that. We're talking about potentially doing, we were originally thinking a restaurant there, but the restaurant makes more sense over here. And then we're thinking about potentially like a barber shop, potentially a laundromat. We would, go to the city for guidance when we get ready to do something. But it's kind of just been like a storage, stuff right now. And we work over there. We have offices over there and stuff that we work out of. But it's been kind of stalled because we wanted to make it apartments and then they said no, which is fine. We'll do something different there.
Who's they, who is the?
Russell.
Yeah.
Russell.
That's-
Yeah.
Okay.
Town.
Okay.
I think that's,
Didn't want
Due to the
apartments.
zoning.
Yeah, it's a zoning.
Required that it stays.
First floor stays commercial, which is fine. We're not gonna fight you on that.
what's your last name? What's the name of your business?
Reardon.
Reardon?
Ultimate Property Holdings.
Ultimate,
Yeah.
ultimate
So
property.
that looks bad, right? So the picture doesn't look good. So is this not all exposed, wide open on the roof?
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it is.
Yeah,
So it's-
it ripped the boards right off there.
There's a lot of work to be done then.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it's not an easy task. We understand that. But like I said, this is the first time I've actually even seen these pictures of it. We knew that the roof was blown off. We've dealt with worse. It's, it's bad, but it's not like, let's just tear it down. I mean, it's a great building. It's a historical building, beautiful, right? It just, nobody's ever taken care of it.
How many apartments did you put in it?
I'm not 100% sure. We gotta work with the engineers. I'm hoping at least 3 per floor, but we'll have to figure out the life safety issues and things of that nature. We're gonna work with the state fire marshal's office and everybody to make sure everything's up to code. And like I said, we don't do, I can show you, I should have brought some portfolios, but we've renovated buildings all over the state, stuff that were condemnable or condemned, and we brought them back and they're producing income and they're great properties right now. And there's, this is what we do. We can make it beautiful. We can make it nice. We've done a significant work over there, even being stalled with the fact that we couldn't do it for the original purpose. We have done a significant amount of work next door, a significant amount of work. And we don't let stuff stay dirty. We don't let trash accumulate. We don't let the weeds grow. We don't have to be told that. We're grown.
It looks a lot better.
We're grown people and we take care of our stuff. We take pride in our work. We don't want people to look at that and say, who the heck is that clown? That's not.
Are you planning on owning this long term? or-
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah, long term.
So it's not just a flip it?
No, we don't flip anything. We really don't flip anything. We're buying hold. We like to create income off of it, make it income producing and stay income producing.
I mean, my concern would be much like the last building where, obviously you can put a roof on it, right? But the structural integrity, especially where that has common walls with other buildings, the movie theater, the Rennie's building, all that water, snow, everything that's been going down in through all floors to the basement, all that.
100%.
For the last 3 years.
Yeah.
You can look at something and say, oh yeah, that looks structurally fine, but
Yeah.
until you get, a licensed engineer to tell you, what could be wrong or what is wrong with it.
Sure. Well, we have to have that anyway, because it won't pass the fire marshal's approval until that happens. So it's gonna have to be PE stamped regardless, but.
Okay, and when is that going to happen? Obviously, before you put a roof on.
Oh, yeah, for
Not gonna
sure.
put a roof on
Yeah,
if it's-
within the next week or two, we're gonna actually have the engineer go into the building and
Okay.
we just needed to get the debris out of there. It was just full of just saturated garbage. Everything was wet.
So if we're trying to create this timeline.
Yep.
If we say 30 days, or yeah, I guess that, if you say
What's that?
next couple weeks.
Yeah, what are you thinking would be a fair timeline?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Realistically, be able to.
Get that report.
At least get the report, and then obviously there's other steps that need to
Sure.
happen as well, but.
I don't know their timeline. I know engineers are typically not sitting around. So, I mean, we're just, my first priority is get all the garbage and debris out of there so he can get in there and make a real assessment. He needs to look at the floors, he needs to look at the walls, he needs to look at everything. I expect the cleanup to be done in there. A week to 2 weeks, probably 2 weeks, we should be completely cleared out, and then he can go in there and make the assessment. When I contact him and say, hey, you're clear to come in, is he gonna come in 3 days or 3 weeks? I don't know. I will, I mean, I want to do this quickly. It's not like,
Okay.
you know,
Did you say you have Plymouth working with you?
not Plymouth, no, Deergo Engineering. I've
Who
worked with
lives
them
in
in the past.
Plymouth, is that?
No, he does not.
No, you-
He's actually,
you do.
I
Yeah,
physically live
Yeah,
in Plymouth.
that's what, yeah,
Yeah.
you heard, no, you
Yeah.
heard Plymouth,
No, that's
yeah, we
fine,
got
yeah.
it. Okay. So what,
So I would just, you know, I would ask for enough time. I mean, I'm literally walking into this, like, this is just a month and a half. I just got
Yeah.
this notice to come to this hearing like a week ago. And I was like, I didn't even know it was happening. So
Sure.
I wasn't even prepared for it, but,
no,
Just-
we've seen you pull out a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
we're doing it.
Yeah,
We're not
yeah.
playing games. I'm a now guy. Like, if it's, you know,
Yep.
I want to get things done right now. So, I would just ask that we would have a little bit of a leeway because of the weather.
Sure.
It's still cold, there's still ice, there's still things like that, but like I said, we can get up there tomorrow and take them, if there are loose bricks up there, I can take them off. That is not a problem, so there won't be a blow hazard or whatever if they're coming off the roof with the wind.
Okay.
And I would expect, I mean, when you look up at it, I mean, you can see that it's a little bit deteriorated, but I don't think it's a huge. Like, I don't think the building is coming apart. I mean, I've been inside the building multiple times a day and the walls are solid. I just think it's the very top that is becoming just dilapidated because people don't take care of it. When you don't maintain buildings, they fall apart. And we're gonna maintain and we're gonna take care of it. So I would just ask that I would have some time to be able to get the engineers to come in, do their engineering and, you know, get that stuff done and then have time to have the weather break a little bit so we can get up there and fix that properly.
Okay.
Like I said, this
What
is
would you,
brand new for me. I mean, this is like, we've been into this project 30 days, maybe a little more.
What do
So-
you think, what's gonna cost to fix the roof?
I don't know. It doesn't, just from the looking at it, and again, I've been doing this a long time, I'm not an engineer, but looking at it, it does not look catastrophic. It just. What happened was, from the stories that I've heard, I don't know exactly what happened, but from what I understand, it had a small leak. And the owner had some dementia issues or something of that nature, and his staff wasn't taking care of the stuff, and so a small problem just became this huge issue. And it didn't need to be. If it had been addressed early, it would have been fine, and then the windstorms came in and then just separated the plywood off the roof, and then at that point, it just became where it just pulled sheet after sheet after sheet off. And it's, you know, once the wind catches that stuff, it's a real problem. You wanna catch it early and mitigate it. So I don't think it's catastrophic. It's a small section of the roof in the front, maybe a quarter of it, you know, eighth or a quarter of it in the front. And it just needs some new plywood and just to make sure that everything in there is structurally sound, and we'll have an engineer check it out. We don't need to be forced to do that. We're gonna do that anyway, but we understand if it's in the order.
I'm thinking there may be 3 time frames here, actually. One to fix the loose bricks, which you said could be,
We can just go tomorrow.
okay.
I would say loose anything,
Yeah.
not just loose bricks.
Sure. Anything to blow off.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cause it's gonna
Yeah.
blow off, hit somebody, hit a
I get
car, you know, go onto these other buildings.
100%.
So, yeah,
And then the second time frame would be to at least get an engineer's walkthrough.
Sure,
The third one would be is how long it takes them to deliver a report, but
sure,
if we knew that you at least had them in there within a certain amount of time.
sure.
We know that a report's pending, right?
Mhm.
right.
I'll text him in the morning and I'll ask him what his, you know, I'll tell him that we're gonna be ready within a week or two. How soon can he get in after that? Maybe he can schedule it fairly close right after work. The stuff is out of his way. Cause he has to be able to
Oh,
look at
yeah.
it,
Right.
to, you know, if
Right.
there's a bunch of debris in the way, it's not gonna help.
And then give you the report.
Yeah.
I don't know, we have to set those,
I know, I mean, I feel
we have to
like
set the,
45 or 60 days, just because I have no idea on the engineer's timeline either,
I
60
think that 60
days.
would be fair.
And then if we're still running up against it, maybe we could talk
Sure.
again if an extension is needed, we
Sure.
chat about that.
but in the meantime, immediately, all,
Say within,
The br-
within what,
A week,
a week, you have all the
All loose
debris
debris.
secured?
Easy.
and continuing with, like, need to keep up with that.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know, if there's
absolutely. No,
A
no,
storm
no.
that comes along,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
something else
Oh,
is
yeah.
blowing around,
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
We just need to make sure public safety. is-
Yeah, no, like I said, we're there 5 days a week
Top
right now.
priority.
We're not, you know, we're not playing games. We're gonna get it done and it's gonna get fixed.
So we,
the 1 week all loose debris, So let us know when the engineer can go in and we'll set a 60-day.
Yeah, I'll send Russell an email.
Well, yeah, 60 days.
After I get
from now
it, I was thinking back from Ron, yeah.
Okay, so we're removing all loose bricks and materials from the roof within 1 week.
Yep.
What was your other?
60 days for, the engineer's report and, I believe I have it by then, or progress report on it.
Sure.
And, yeah. And do we want to, and a plan to,
And a plan to fix the roof 100%, yeah.
well, yeah,
And
to,
I need to fix it because
To
I'm not
fix all
doing
this-
anything. in there
all
until it needs
engineering
fixed.
issues.
Yeah, for sure.
you know, you gotta have that whole plan, you know, I think that plan should come along with the report. Like, here's the report and this is how we're gonna fix it
Yeah.
with a timeline
Sure.
that we can be like, yeah, okay, that's
Mhm.
satisfactory
Makes
or
sense.
no, this is, that's
Yeah.
crazy or something like, you know.
Sure.
Just so we don't have 6
So-
meetings on this
Yeah,
one topic.
yeah.
We,
So 60 days for engineer report and building plan?
yeah,
Is the upstairs of the other building an apartment? Someone
It
living
is.
there? Yeah.
It is a car.
all right. Thank you very much,
Excellent.
appreciate it.
Appreciate you
you.
guys.
Yep,
Nice
Do you guys
to
want
meet
to
you.
keep those pictures or can I grab those back?
I think they were over there, yep, thank you.
Thank you.
So do we have any questions, concerns, comments from the audience? Did we miss anything? All righty, anything else from the council? All right, I look for a motion from the council to adopt order 2605 as written by Nicole.
Make a motion that we adopt order 2605.
Oh, wait,
I already did.
I'm just kidding, I already did that part, sorry.
Gabe's on the roll.
Yeah.
Oh, we vote.
Yeah, all those in favor of order 2605 as written by Nicole, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Order
Appreciate it.
2605
Good night.
passes. My automation was off there, sorry about that.
That picture of the building looks really nice. That looks really amazing. Little restaurant?
Moving on to resolution. Wow, guess we lost y'all. Yeah, yeah. Thank you guys, appreciate it. And there goes your audience, sorry.
That's the movie theater crew.
For what I've ever seen.
Huh?
I don't think I've ever seen chairs this big.
Yeah,
No, really?
We just need Russ to go home.
used to be common, anyway. Look for a motion from the council on resolution 20.
I'm gonna read the resolution.
Yeah, look for, what?
Almost enough, want her to read.
Wants to read
Yeah.
something first.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, sorry,
Resolution.
yeah, resolution 2611, jeez, I'm gross.
Resolved that the
You're
town,
on.
Oh, yeah, I'm tired, but go ahead.
resolved that the town council received the town of Pittsfield payment management plan as presented by Coral.
Look for a motion from the council on resolution 2611.
Make a motion, we adopt resolution 2611.
Moved and seconded. And, resolution 2611, we got, a gentleman here from Laurel Palmer to present on their report. It was in the packet. And everybody, should have that. And I think catch your name, sorry,
Yeah,
I'm happy to take on the introduction. I'm sorry I cleared your room.
if they knew what it was, they should have known what it was.
I would say that no one, if you haven't seen my pavement presentation, they wouldn't have left. Yeah, I'm Ryan Barnes, I'm with Laurel Palmer Consulting Engineers in South Portland, Maine. Making sure this works. So Laurel Palmer is a multidisciplinary consulting firm. We've done a lot of work with Mr. Kluge in the past, in the previous post in Dover Foxcroft. We have municipal clients all across the entire state. Pavement management is something that has always been sort of a cornerstone of our portfolio because pavement tends to be one of the most valuable assets in every community and the most neglected. So that's that's a little bit about why Laurel Palmer, a little bit about why me and why I'm the one who usually ends up doing these presentations. I've been doing this for about 25 years now. I'm a senior project manager with Laurel Palmer. I actually started there fresh out of college and then went away and did municipal engineering for both the cities of Lewiston and the town of Brunswick, where I was the town engineer and public works director. In that time, I got involved with the main chapter of the American Public Works Association, which is a strong supporter of pavement management, and I'm currently the president of the main chapter. Because of my background with both municipalities and with HWA, I have first-hand experience in planning and budgeting, and also implementing municipal capital plans, which kind of sets me apart from a lot of my colleagues and competitors when it comes to this type of work. So the big question, I wish they'd waited to hear it answered, is what is pavement management? We'll go over that tonight. Go into why it matters. We'll look at what data collection is possible and what's been done in the community. We'll look at what future planning looks like, both from a preservation standpoint and from a reconstruction standpoint. We'll go over a couple of different funding scenarios that were reviewed as part of this study. And I'm happy to take questions at the end, but if there are questions as we go, I'm also happy to handle them as we go so that we don't have to move back and forth. Whatever is best for the audience, whatever is best for the mayor. So starting off with what is pavement management. So pavement management is a systematic approach to developing, operating a pavement system to keep your assets maintained in a cost-effective manner. Involved in that is data collection, condition assessment, analysis and modeling, maintenance and rehabilitation, and most importantly, planning. Planning is the most important part once the data has been collected. So the reason that pavement management matters is because it extends your pavement life. When done correctly, you can maintain your roads for less cost for a longer period of time and create less of an impact to the paving budget within the community. The hard part is that when it gets neglected, the opposite is also true. Roads can quickly deteriorate, and then trying to play catch up takes longer. Reducing long-term costs is the biggest goal that we always kind of put through with the plans that we put together. We also like to try to improve safety and ride quality. We don't just look at which roads got paved last, we look at which roads are also the most important to get paved, both from a traffic standpoint as far as how many vehicles use them, but also from a kind of accessory use standpoint. Is there a school, a hospital? Is it a shopping district? Is it a high foot traffic area? You know, these are all things that play into the role of what is helpful in making these decisions for a community and for obviously the select board. And as I kind of started with at the beginning of the presentation, in most communities, pavement is your most valuable asset. And you'll hear me repeat it, and you'll see it repeated through the slides tonight. The most important thing with pavement management is to keep your good roads good. Because once they start to deteriorate, they become much more expensive. We'll go into that in a little bit. It does mean that the roads that have already failed get handled in a little bit slower manner, but we can discuss kind of the best ways and options on how to address those and handle those moving forward as well. So what you see in front of you is kind of a typical pavement deterioration scale. So if you look at the top line, I'm not even gonna guess the color because I'm colorblind, but the one that's located with optimum timing, that's showing doing traditional maintenance overlays on a 7 to 10 year period, typically depending on the volume of the road. Looking at that bottom line, you end up doing maintenance every 15 to 20 years, and you can see that you're getting much more deterioration before that next project comes through. Why is that important? To fix a roadway in that optimum timing scenario with those little jumps, it's about $200,000 a mile for the roadway, which sounds like a lot. Don't get me wrong. I understand how pavement budgeting works, and they are big numbers. But that is compared to the $1.5 million that it would cost to do that next incremental step if you neglect that road for 15, 20 more years. So again, trying to keep your good roads good is what helps keep your costs down, because instead of making those $1.5 million investments every 20 years, you're making $200,000 investments within that same period. So it's approximately a 15% cost change to be able to do it that way, 15 to 20%. So it's definitely, the more economical and viable way to do things. The problem is you do have to get to the point where you have good roads. And again, keep the good roads good will be kind of reiterated. It's the point I will make every presentation I give. I think everybody remembers that phrase by the time I'm done. So I apologize for being repetitive, but it works. So as far as looking at what the road conditions are, they get rated similar to the grading system in a school. So 100 is great, 0 is completely failed. You want to be somewhere in the middle. You know, the rule of thumb is you want to try to be in that 70% range or 70 range for a rating. That's considered to be kind of that sweet spot for when you want to start looking at rehabilitating that roadway, because that's before it gets too costly to do so. So pavement preservation, which is those top 4 boxes, those are the projects where you're going to be doing either crack seal, skinny overlays, a shimmin overlay. It might get into some mill and fill, which is when they go and just grind that top inch of pavement off, put a new layer down. That's a little bit less in communities than it is a DOT process, where we would use it in community like Pittsfield is an area where you have sensitive drainage, a lot of curb or sidewalks. In those areas, by doing a mill and fill, you end up saving yourself money by not having to adjust all those other features. But just on a typical residential street, it's not usually something that you use just because it is more expensive. And then once you get down below that 55 to 40 range, when you get into the very poor and you continue down to 0, that's when you're getting into either reclaim and pave, which is when the big machine comes and grinds up the entire pavement layer, or you end up removing all of the existing pavement and then putting in a whole new pavement course, or it's a full reconstruction where you end up coming in and digging out 24 inches of material, putting back 18 inches of gravel, 3 inches of what we call crushed gravel, and then pave on top of that. So that's obviously your most expensive option. It's the one we want to avoid. And we want to avoid it really at all costs if we can, because that's when things really get expensive. So as far as what my firm's been hired to do for the town is, we started off by doing a roadway inventory. There are multiple different ways to do these inventories and the data collection associated with them. Previously, when Mr. Creepy was in Dover Foxcroft, we did the RSMS method, which is the Road Surface Management System method. That was a method that was really supported by Maine DOT for decades, honestly. And it was kind of the tried and true method throughout the state for smaller communities. Unfortunately, that methodology has kind of come out of favor just because it's a lower tier of data collection, and it's also not supported by DOT anymore. In order for to do RSMS, you really need a lot of information from DOT, and they're not supporting that software application anymore. So what we've moved on to using is Paver, which is a product that was developed by the US. Do you have a question?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay, no, that's fine. US Army Corps of Engineers, it's now maintained, and the licensing goes through Colorado State University because they continue to do research on it. This is the method we use. It's essentially, we have a technician go through, drive every street. They're taking measurements every periodic distance, depending on the length of the street. It's every quarter mile or half mile. And then we use all of that data to catalog what each roadway segment has for a rating. So we'll start with the good news. Good news is that the category of roads that are good, those are the ones that cost between $10,000 a mile, which is the crack sealing, $200,000 a mile, which is those shim and overlays. You got 25.54 miles of those roads. Total cost to rehab those roads is right around $2 million if you were to do them all at once, which obviously we would not advocate for. That next category is the poor roads. They kind of fall into, like, as I said earlier, that $200,000 to $325,000 a mile range, a little bit heavier overlays and shims. So you're putting down more pavement, but you haven't got to that point where you're either grinding pavement or stripping pavement yet. In the town, you have approximately 8.2 miles of those roads. So even though there's 3 times or a third as many miles in this category than in the previous category, the cost is about $1.5 million more. So you can already see how that degradation has added cost to the equation. Moving on to the failed road category, the one like by I said, we always want to try to stay above. These are the roads that cost somewhere between $800,000 to $1.5 million a mile, depending on the application and width. You have currently 6.8 miles or so of roads in this category. And these roads cost roughly $5.5 million if you were to maintain them all at once. So what does that mean overall? So overall, your roadways that fall into that keeping the good roads good category. So, you know, even though poor roads are more expensive, we still consider those in that pavement preservation category. Please forgive me, but the Zoom video is right over my screen, so I can't see the numbers. So 83% of your roadway, or I should start off by saying you've got just over 40 miles of town maintained roads in Pittsfield. Of those, approximately 83% of them are in that 4 and above category. For, you know, a total mileage of roughly 33 miles. Total cost to maintain those roadways, if it was all done at once, would be roughly $5.2 million. By comparison, you've got just under 7 miles of road, or 17%, that fall in that very poor to fail category, and that portion costs, or would cost, approximately $5.5 million to maintain. Now, it's important to note that even though it's a significantly smaller portion of your roadways, there's just as much cost for the town in the reconstruction category as there is in the preservation category. Ultimately, you want everything to be in the preservation category, so the hard part will be trying to get some of those roads moved up. I will say that this is the first time I've done one in a really long time that had 0 roads in the failed road category, which basically is nothing. But there are some that are pretty close. So as far as future plan, you know, we always advocate first and foremost to preserve what you have that is good. You know, going back to the difference in cost of $200,000 a mile versus $1.5 million a mile, you know, it's obvious why you don't want those roads to fall down and get into that kind of gray box that I have on this table. So what you need to do with this is develop a data-driven plan. You know, that's why we did the data collection. That's why as you move forward doing capital paving projects, you want to update the plan. And then every year you can look at what roads should be done in your next 5 years or your 5th year out, so that you can always be looking ahead and always planning ahead. Because that's how you get into a scenario where you're not always trying to play catch up. Like I said, updating the plan is very important, but following the plan is the most important thing. I know personally, because I've been a municipal engineer for many years, and I know that pavement is the one thing that everybody always thinks can be cut. Because it's a big number. Doesn't mean it's the right decision, but it is something that's easy to cut in the short term. But it will end up costing communities in the long term when they do that. So as far as the reconstruction project, those are obviously a lot harder to budget for, especially based on the town's current funding. Trying to fix even a half mile of these roadways isn't necessarily feasible with your current budget. The biggest thing is to look for opportunities for short-term repairs. You know, it may not be the right repair from a structural standpoint, but sometimes doing what's called an LGP mix, which is like capital paving with DOT, where they basically are just, for lack of a better description, putting Band-Aid on the road. That'll get you another 7 years, 5 to 7 years, depending on the condition of the road. It'll help you kind of catch up on some of your other roads, but at the short term, it'll help create or prevent a road that's unsafe and make it safer. Because those roads tend to have drainage issues, which also leads to icing issues. So by putting that thin coat of pavement on it, you're allowing water to get off them. And then hopefully they hold up long enough for you to be able to budget for doing that. Next biggest thing is always prioritizing which roads need to be done. Again, looking at things like access, you know, are there schools, hospitals, businesses that need that roadway versus, you know, I've got one town that has one house at the end of a half-mile long road, and that person is very upset that their road isn't getting paved this year. They were the only person to show up at the public meeting, in fact, to talk at least. There were several people at the meeting, but they were the only one that wanted to tell us that our plan was wrong. So those are the things you have to weigh with those projects. And then there's always the option for either bonding for the projects or trying to work with other entities to try to help fund the project. To kind of get where you need to get, and with that, what I mean is kind of piggybacking off of like utility upgrade projects. So if the water company or sewer, or even, the electrical company are gonna be doing work within the street, you try to work with them to increase what they're gonna do for rehabilitation, and that way you're paying for your portion, they're paying for theirs, and you all kind of spread those dollars out a little bit more. So, once we got the data, once we looked at the condition of the roadways, the next step was to develop a plan for what the next 5 years would look like on a cycle for town. But you can't do that by just randomly picking a number to use for budgeting purposes. I mean, you could, but it would put a lot of pressure on Jack to come up with a number. So what we do is we run multiple different scenarios. So we always run a scenario of what happens if you don't do anything, just as a baseline. We look at maintaining your current funding. What does that do for your road conditions? And then we look at trying to do incremental increases. The third one we always do is what will it take cost-wise to maintain your PCI, your paving condition index, over the next 10 years, and then we look at other funding steps. In this case, we looked at 200,000 a year, 400,000 a year, 500,000 a year to see what that would equate to. That helps you kind of establish where that sweet spot is for funding. So, not surprisingly, in the no funding scenario, all your roads get worse. So the solid colored lines are the condition as they stand today of all your roadways in the town. The ones that are hatched are the condition 10 years from now. So you can see all the way to the right, your good roads that started out at 30 roadway segments, so that's not miles, but that's sections, end up dropping down to 2 in that 10-year period. So obviously there's some significant degradation in that 10-year period. And you can see incrementally as you move to the left of the page that size of the bad roads keeps getting bigger. So you're increasing in your satisfactory roads, and then you just see your condition continue to deteriorate. And this is where you do end up getting into some roadway segments that do hit that failed category that you don't have today. Next scenario we looked at was current funding. We used $165,000 a year based on some historical information that was provided to us. I know that wasn't necessarily every year, but there was incremental steps that roughly averaged that. So you can see that in this scenario, there are more roads that stayed in the good category, but you still had a lot of roads that kind of fell off, including those failed roadways. I'm actually going to skip to the next one and then I'll go back to that one. So once we establish where your roadways are based on your current funding, the next thing we try to do is figure out what it would take to kind of maintain what you have. So in order to maintain what you have now, and the reason that the line tables aren't all perfectly lined up is just basically rounding within the model. But in order to maintain your current PCI or average PCI, you would have to spend roughly $375,000 annually compared to your current $165,000. So once we get to that point, that's when we start trying to kind of balance the model out. So we always take a step back and figure out how much degradation do you get if you don't fully fund that amount. It's somewhere in between your current funding and the maintained number. And you can see that you are still losing ground annually, but it is definitely slower than it was in the no funding scenario and the current funding. And moving ahead, not surprisingly, at $400,000 a year, you are starting to see some improvement. You're starting to see your good roads get better. You're starting to see your poor roads and your very poor roads start to go down in number. So it's trending in the right direction. Anything that's spent over that sweet spot of $375,000 will show improvement. So obviously, when you go through and do $500,000 as a scenario, you see even more improvement. There's lots of different ways to do funding. A lot of times what communities do is they start with what their current status quo is and look at trying to do incremental increases. Some base it on new tax revenue. If they know that they have new tax revenue coming in from a development or some other source, they allocate a portion of that to try to kind of jumpstart the program. The biggest thing is just working on trying to get that number increased. You know, we know that going from $165,000 a year to $375,000 a year probably won't be popular with voters, probably not popular with anyone in the room. But the faster we get up there, the faster your roads will get better. And then ultimately you get to a point where you kind of hit that sweet spot and your roads are cheaper to maintain. They'll always be a little bit more expensive because the price of paving has gone up and will continue to go up as time progresses. But ultimately you want to get to that point where you're doing the maintenance and the preservation work, not doing the reconstruction, and that's when things get better. And the reason I mentioned inflation is that inflation in paving tends to be one of the most, it is the most volatile construction item most likely. I mean, when I started paving over 25 years ago, we were paying $30 a ton for asphalt. Now you're lucky if you're getting it for around $120 a ton. And overnight, I've had projects get canceled because of what's going on in the oil commodity market. So 2009, I had $4 million worth of paving that was on the books that all got canceled in one night because the price of liquid asphalt tripled in 1 week. So every project got canceled. DOT canceled something around $30 million worth of paving that fall. And then they played catch up for years to follow as a result of it. So it is very volatile, unfortunately, because it's not just the liquid asphalt. That's roughly 6% of the cost of the asphalt, or 6% of the quantity of the asphalt. But it takes a lot of fuel to haul to the sites, takes a lot of fuel to heat up the plant and make the asphalt. So it's very oil-driven process right now, or at least fuel-driven, I should say. A lot of the plants are switching to natural gas, but there are not many of those currently. So looking at the overall funding impacts, as we discussed earlier, so no funding means your roads go from that fair category where they are now to poor. Maintaining your current budget, they stay fair, but they're definitely on the decline. So their PCI in the first scenario of not funding goes from just under 72 to 52. So in a 10-year window, you lose 20 points on your average pay position index. Maintaining your current budgeting, you'll go from a 72 to a 62. So 10 is still a pretty big jump. But if you jump down to line 4, if you go up to that $275,000 annually, you'll see that you essentially maintain your roads in that satisfactory condition. So again, even though it may not be realistic to try to get to that number today, trying to get up to that number and whatever that future number is, that's what's great about pavement management. You know, a pavement management plan is what you have. It's a breathing, living document, needs to be updated, if not annually, at least every couple of years. And then every 5 to 6 years, you want to really look at doing more data, if not more regularly. Because that'll show you, especially in your first cycle, you really want to look at 3 to 5 years, because that'll show you what your degradation rates really are. Pavement is very different throughout the state. The aggregate down in southern Maine is very hard granite, so the roads tend to hold up better than they do in Aroostook County, where they're mostly burrow pits, you know, potato country. So there's not a lot of hard rock up there. So completely different pavement quality structure between both ends of the state. In Pittsfield, you're out of the Bangor area, Herman area, and Sydney, depending on where they want to haul it from. So you're actually into some decent aggregate. It's not as consistent as the aggregate in southern Maine, but at least it's pretty consistent. So by reevaluating in 3 to 5 years, you'll get to accurately put in a degradation curve. Right now, we have an assumed degradation curve. How that was developed was we used historical paving data from the town as to when roads were paved. We also looked at other roads in the area and other roads that are paved out of the similar locations that we do work for. So we know roughly what those degradations are, but you really get to zero in, and that really helps you kind of fine tune your model as you move forward. So again, the most important thing is keeping the good roads good. And unfortunately, it will require upgrading your paving budgets as you move forward, but that's something that we can obviously help you with to try to establish what the best scenario is for the community. All I had for presentation, I guess the one thing I will say is that I believe everyone had, or I believe in the packet was the pavement management plan. That included the draft 5-year plan, and we'll see, and a lot of it has to do with where your roads lie. That a lot of the roads in the first 5 years are those roads that are in that, 50 to 70 category. Trying to keep those good roads good, because you've got a lot that are starting to get to the 70. And once they go below that, when you start to see the accelerated degradation. But we are trying to kind of pick off some of the other reconstruction roads. And one thing I always, encourage communities to do, and we just did it, for another community a couple of years ago. I always say during COVID, it was a very unfortunate time, but paving prices were really cheap. So I just updated the plan for that town because we gave them a 5-year plan, but they paved all the roads in 3 because prices were good. When you get favorable bid pricing, which happens, depends on, lots of things, but when you get that favorable bid pricing, that's when you start trying to negotiate with those contractors to do some of those smaller bad sections. Or covering more of the good roads so that you'll get to those bad roads quicker. So as far as trying to get good pricing, the things that really are beneficial are how you lump your projects together. You'll see that we try to kind of put projects that are geographically in the same area in the same years the best we can. So we're not trying to pave all 4 corners of the town in one spot. It's not always popular with how either wards or districts are drawn, but it's what really helps to keep pricing down. So we're not paving in your ward or district this year. That probably means we are next year or the year after. It's a cycle thing. The DOT does it by county. They end up doing major paving operations in different counties each year, depending on kind of moving around in a cycle. And then the other thing that's really important is DOT and the Turnpike put out a lot more paving than any community does. Trying to get out your bids in advance of theirs and trying to get your bid pricing to be competitive is very important, not to be competing with DOT on pricing. So you may find yourself that some years their paving plan is going to be right around you, and you can actually piggyback off of it because there'll be a contractor in the area, you might get really favorable pricing. There may be other years where if you haven't bid your projects early enough, that all the contractors have committed to paving 75 miles from your town. So them trying to get to working in your community is going to be very hard, and they're probably going to push you off to the end of the year, and you'll hope to get it paved before it snows. So timing is kind of critical on how we do things as we move through. So I guess with that, I'll just open it up to any questions about either this or the plan. The plan, I do warn you, I will be happy to answer questions on it, but I read a lot of these, so I may not know every road.
Oh, you have the printed book. I was gonna say, wasn't there a sheet in there where each street in Pittsfield is actually labeled good? It says,
Yeah.
oh, good,
Yeah,
perfect.
there's a-
So we'll know which roads are good, good.
Yep, it's got all that. I guess I'll start off with a few of the questions that I had. One of them would be, so we have a road that's been complained about for a few years, and it's in your very poor category.
Yeah.
And, you look at the schedule, and it's not due to, get fixed for another 4 years or something like that.
Yep.
Obviously that doesn't seem like it would really be practical, if. I would think safety comes into play at some point, it's a highly, the speed limit on that road's 50 miles an hour. It's been bad for several years already, it's not getting any better. Like, what do you suggest in that scenario of like, okay, this one is terrible, we don't necessarily have the funding for it, do we, like, somewhat like we did last year with Hamilton Terrace, Arbor, Maple, all that area, we knew they were really bad, we knew we were just kind of putting lipstick on a pig, but we knew it was gonna get us another 3 or 4 years. Is that like the stopgap type thing you talked about of like, okay, we're gonna do this, we know it's not the real fix, but it's a fix for now. Do we still, in this project, do we still kind of keep it as a poor to very poor, knowing that we didn't really fix it, but it looks nice?
It would end up moving more than, it would move out of the 5-year plan once we get paved. That's not to say it's gonna be much out of the 5.
Sure, yeah.
But, we're happy to evaluate roads on a case by case like that. Obviously, it does take out of your budget.
Right,
I guess I always say that you really need eyes on to know what the complaints are being driven by, and I don't mean by people, I just mean by the nature of it. You're always gonna get complaints. I mean, my administrative assistant in Brunswick referred to my phone as the complaint hotline, because that was the only people that ever called me other than the boss, and that often was to complain as well.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, everybody wants to complain to Public Works about their roads.
right,
That's not to say the roads are bad, obviously it shows up as very poor.
right,
But then what you have to do is figure out, is there a hazard created because of their complaint? So is there running in the roadway that's causing ice? Is Public Works able to maintain the road?
right,
Those sorts of things. I mean, I know, as a Public Works director, there were definitely roads that I band-aided predominantly because I knew I couldn't keep them ice-free. But even those roads, it really was dependent on the number of houses and the volume of traffic on that roadway, because again, quarter-mile long dead-end road has a lot different usage than a collector road that gets 2,000 to 3,000 cars a day.
that's right, yeah,
So.
and obviously-
Kind of the big picture, and everyone thinks their road is the worst road.
right, and obviously you kind of gave your best crack at some of this stuff, but if there was, failed roads in 2027 that we were gonna do, but we see 2030 road that is a higher priority, we just kind of flip the two, or,
If
or not.
you can always make minor adjustments.
Yeah,
The-
yeah.
The biggest thing is just trying to keep you wanna always try to keep the amount of money you're spending on the good roads kind of your bigger bucket.
Right,
Usually, and it all depends on the conditions of your road, ultimately, once you get to a point where your roads are being maintained well, 60 to 70% of your budget is gonna go into those better roads.
mhm,
And the smaller amounts will be, it'll be like 20% in the poor roads, and then like 10 to 20% in the failed roads.
sure,
But by then you won't have a lot of those. So it'll be,
Right.
trying to kind of pick those off as you go. And again, a lot of those, like the Band-Aid approach, is great, because those are the roads that I usually would add if I had favorable bid pricing. So if I ended up with, a surplus one year because of how the bid pricing come in, I would talk with the contractor about, hey, while you're in town, can we also, just drag shim this roadway so that it sheds water? I know it's not the right fix, but it'll give us 3 or 4 years to get more funding to kind of do it the right way. And sometimes, depending on what's under that roadway, so there's 2 important things with pavement. There's the pavement itself, but then also the base that's under it.
Right.
So sometimes if the base that's under it is really good, those Band-Aids might last longer than you think. Instead of 3 years, they might last 7. So that's why I say you move it out, because you want to see how it performs over that first
Sure.
year or two.
yeah, that makes sense, okay, that's great. Yes.
And contractors actually like a chance to do some of those because they're right here.
Yep.
They just have to get more pavement and, and put the drag shim down, and usually it's the best price and the best way to get it is if there's just a little leeway on the bid, or there's some extra, you can go deal with some of those.
Yeah, those tend to be, if you're gonna try to add things, those are the things that you usually are able to add to the contract without much grief from the contractor or much added cost. Trying to add a reconstruction or a reclaim or a mill requires another sub, increases your prices. So trying to negotiate that after the opening is more challenging.
Oops, go ahead.
One thing I wanted to point out when you had the different funding scenarios up there is that we get funding from the state for road capital improvements. So if you looked at 375, it's about $85,000 roughly. It varies according to, I guess, a portion of the gas tax is really where it comes from. But $85,000, so $375,000 paving budget would be 85,000 of state money, and it would be less than 300,000 locally raised. So you put that in context, if you're talking about a $400,000 paving budget, you're talking about raising about 315,000. So it, makes that a little bit more palatable for us, knowing that we're not raising the full amount. We have a component in there of state assistance that has to go for this.
That's pretty
Right.
consistent each year.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's broken down.
Yeah.
On page 23. They show, the town, the main DOT, and then total budget and expenditure, and then some remaining budget, which I see that could go towards the failed roads, you know, over time, if you get the money that builds up, which
Yeah.
I doubt that'll ever happen, but if not,
But if it does.
not with, yeah, but maybe someday it might.
Yeah, and the LRAP funding, is that's what you're referring to.
Yeah,
The LRAP is, it's usually fairly consistent, it's rare that it goes down, it did just increase, 2 years ago, and it increased, and it's increasing this year, a decent amount, so that's helpful, but I think that's still your 85,000 number, is probably with that increase.
Yeah,
But it's helpful that that does increase, and that is, it has to, you have to document each year that you're using that to maintain your roadways.
and that's a fixed price, a fixed amount.
It's not a fixed amount, it's a, there's a.
Is it
Based on-
a percentage of what we budget or?
No, there's a funding equation that's based on the total number of road miles you have,
Oh, okay,
or that's actually lane miles, but. Total miles you have based on a pot of money that then gets distributed between every community in the state.
so I assume this figure that's in your document is
What you're
what you did, yeah, you calculated that.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it, how much is the paving paver software to purchase? I see you said that we could purchase it.
I honestly don't know the answer to that
Not sure.
question because we typically, we have a license for it, so we typically do the maintenance for people.
So you just give us a login and we'll be fine.
What's your password?
Yeah.
Paver's a great software,
Yeah. No.
it's a intricate software,
Okay, yeah,
so
no, that's fine.
I have a project engineer that is my go-to on that. I don't even dabble in Paver.
Okay,
I do all of the, I tell them what to do with it, and we help make the plans together, but the actual data collection with paper is a little bit intricate, so that's why we try to maintain it for communities, because if you get it
yeah,
balanced, it ends up not
Sure.
being a useful tool anymore.
and that was that included in our contract with Royal Palm? Like their continued
No,
assistance for a little while or?
this is kind of a one project thing. What I would envision though is that we would continue to work with Gold Farmer each year so that
Right.
we know that our paving plan is on point. And I think one thing that works good is, you know, either every fall or every spring, go out and ride the roads again and make sure that what things look like in the fall of 2025 is how things look in the fall of 2026 in terms of what we are thinking about for 2027, because if you have something that deteriorated faster, you thought you had it in a year, and now you're saying, okay, we're closer to the cliff, then you might want to rearrange, and some other things hold up better. So it's constantly just making sure that what your plan is checks with what you're actually seeing on the ground, so that you get the best scope of work for each season.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
for the communities that we do data management for,
Were you surprised though, when you looked at the plan?
No,
I wasn't surprised. at all.
I was surprised that it wasn't worse.
That's kinda
Then-
where I was
Actually,
at. On
I was.
average, I thought the roads
I
were bad,
was.
they were better than what I expected them to be, but the bad roads were bad.
They were,
You know
yes,
what I mean? I was like, okay, yeah.
I was surprised that we had 0 fails.
and again, those are the roads people call about, and those are
Yes.
the roads people remember, so
Right.
Yeah.
it works your perception of the difference.
But I do,
Yes.
No one remembers the road they didn't hit a pothole on, they all remember the one they did.
And they talk about it all the time.
Well,
obviously, a lot of the roads that are failed, like, they're important, but I was a little bit happy that they weren't highly traveled
Yeah.
roads for the
Yeah.
most part. Some of them obviously were, but,
83%
But
were
some
in
of
the
them
okay category.
right,
Yeah, and a lot of your roads that are in the lesser category are predominantly residential streets,
right,
which is good because those are the ones the Band-Aids will last longer on if
Right.
you choose to go that route, but it's also the ones that people should be driving slow.
Yeah.
right.
So, you know, it works out well, but, if I can just real quickly to get back to Jack's point. Yeah, we do absolutely do annual projects for many municipalities that we do pavement management for, so typically, you know, like Dover, Foxcroft, Gray, Standish. We help them put together a paving bid every year. And we also can provide inspection services, it won't be full-time, but we can send someone out to make sure that the contractor's doing what they're supposed to be doing, and believe me, contractors, if they know someone might stop in,
Yeah,
follow the rules a lot better than if they know no one is gonna stop it.
that's
Right,
a good idea.
But, you know, the first step to us doing the next year's plan is always that one of our engineers will reach out to your public works director, they'll reach reach out to your town manager. Anyone else that wants to complain about the road that's on staff, we can reach out to. Those help us identify the roads that may be failing quicker. It also helps us understand where their priorities are, and then before we put together, or as part of putting together that bid package, we always have someone come up and drive the set of roads that are set to be done, and also kind of spot check some of the roads that are in that next year's plan to see if any of them should get shuffled around.
Sure. I'll just make one more comment in it, and it's a little bit for your background, but mostly for people listening online. You know, you see a figure of 165,000 this year, but that was really this year. In the past 4 years prior to that, I think we budgeted like 3.5 million. So from like 2020 or 2021 on, you know, we put 3.5 million, 4 million into roads.
Yep.
The prior 15 years before that, they put less than $1 million.
Yeah.
So we're making up,
Mhm.
we're trying to make up for the 15 years prior to. And that's, you know, that's a little bit of what you're seeing. I think we've done
Yeah,
a
In a
pretty remarkable
responsible
job, but this is a real plan,
yeah,
which we hadn't had that I am aware of.
this is fantastic.
And so this is definitely,
Yeah.
trying to show that we're, you know, trying to spend wisely and do the right things and maintain roads in the proper way and all that. So this is super helpful.
Mhm.
You know, most communities in Maine, or a lot of communities in Maine, the majority probably don't have a tree paving management plan. Those that do understand and realize the value of it as they get into it. My firm's been working with, you know, the one we always say is, you know, our firm started in 1998 and we've been doing pavement management at the town of Wyndham since 1998. And as a result of that, they probably have, as far as an average PCI value, one of the best in the state, especially for communities that size. And that's because they've been following a plan for over 25 years.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the goal, to get to the point, you know, they've got to the point where it's like, you know, I always say, I finally knew that I had been, you know, made it as an engineer when I paved the same road I had done with my first year out.
Yeah.
You know,
Or makes you feel old, right?
Oh,
Not accomplished.
Yeah.
yeah, one of my junior engineers pointed out I was old enough to be his father. But yeah, to that point, it's, you know, we're starting to see the repeat cycle on a lot of these roads in a lot of these towns. Town of Cumberland's another one we've been working with for 24 years, I think. And that's, I live in North Yarmouth, so it's right in my backyard, so I've seen the roads where it's like, hey, I was the junior engineer that was out there when they paved that road in 2003, and now someone else is out there in 18 doing the same road. But we did the right treatment, so it's still a cost-effective way to do it. So, you know, it's kind of a good seeing, once you get into that second cycle,
Yeah,
when you really know you've kind of got your paving program locked in.
right. And our challenge is just gonna be making this, it's always been a capital improvement thing, and it really shouldn't be. It should be
Right,
a
right.
budgetary thing,
Right,
because it's not going away. And, you know, setting that dollar amount and sticking to that dollar amount,
I love the plan, though,
You
makes
know,
me feel very
we just
comfortable,
need-
like we're not winging it,
right?
we're not hoping that we're doing the right thing. We've had an evaluation. Did you say your organization employs the inspectors?
We have people that we,
Yeah, oh, that's great. That's
yeah,
great.
so typically, you know, our capital, we just call it, you know, it would be for this year, it'd be the 2026 capital improvement plan for Pittsfield. And again, that includes someone doing a quick inspection to make sure they're still the right roads, putting together the bid. We know all the contractors, so if you don't have your own solicitation process, can help you with soliciting the contractors, can help you in reviewing and awarding of the bids, and also can help you with construction services, either if that's just administrative, great, but again, and I'll say it just because I spent almost the first decade of my career in the field, having boots on the ground is really what keeps contractors honest.
Mhm.
That's not to say that Pike or Lane or any of the contractors in this area aren't gonna do a good job when no one's looking.
Yeah.
But they definitely stay on their toes better when they know someone can stop by.
It's like every industry.
Yep, and I think the other advantage to that is, you know, you always reserve the right in any of our contracts that we write to test the material. So if our technician's out in the field and doesn't think something looks right, we make a quick phone call and get someone from either SW Cole or RJB Gillespie, one of the other firms, to come and sample it and test it, so we know if what we're getting is really the right thing.
which is part of the bid spec, because you'll actually have the mix recipe, you know, the mix design in the bid spec, and you know, they know what they're being asked to make, and you'll check the mix to make sure that's the size aggregate and what the mix is really is supposed to be.
Yeah, and the other thing that's helpful is that because of the fact that I've been doing this and I've done a lot of work with DOT in the past, I predominantly work with municipalities only now. Just because when I said I left, I came back to the same firm. They asked me to come back and they gave me a choice, and municipal is what I really wanted to do, and that's what I'm passionate about. I'm not as passionate when it comes to working on DOT roads. But because of that relationship, even though we may not have somebody at the plant physically, chances are with a couple of phone calls, I can find somebody at DOT that's in that plant or has been in the last few days to tell me if things were kind of nice and working appropriately when they were there, or if they've kind of put them on the naughty list and blacklisted them.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times either they will blacklist equipment, like if there's a paver that's not laying a decent mat, and some contractors, not all, but some will move that onto a municipal project where they don't think anyone's looking. Same with mix, they may be having challenge in producing passing mix, so they start shipping that off to municipalities. I mean, the example I usually give, and it was in the town of Cumberland, was I got a phone call from a contractor that said, you know, after telling me it was gonna be 3 months before they paved the road, that they're gonna be overlaying this particular street today, starting in like 5 months. So I immediately went over there, again, the boots on the ground. Found 20 trucks sitting in a row, no paver, no crew. To me, it was a dead giveaway that material got sent off with a DOT job.
Yeah.
And with a couple of phone calls to DOT, I was able to figure out which project got kicked off of, and was able to reject the mix before they tried to place it. So had that town not been hired us to do that, they would have had what turned out to be really bad mix put down in their roadway, because DOT is still fixing the problems from that road from 15 years ago that mix did go on.
That's like we never think
Yeah,
about.
good to know.
Pavement is the last thing you do, it's the only thing people remember. I've done pipe 35 feet in the ground that I think is really impressive. Nobody cares. They don't care about pavement on the top.
Yeah.
You know, I spent two summers installing 1,000 feet of pipe, 35 feet in the ground. No one cared until I lift the pavement on it, and then they all thought the project was great.
Sounds about right.
Awesome.
Are there any roads that you kind of throw the towel in on?
No, I mean, every road has, you know, you won't see it in a 5-year cycle, but every road is something that we would definitely do something on. Might be a Band-Aid in the short term, but as far as throwing the towel in, you really can't. You own them. It's, you broke it, you bought it,
Doesn't have to
so.
be paved, all right?
A dirt road?
It becomes challenging. I actually know that, the town that I used to work for did reclaim a roadway and return it to gravel.
Yeah.
As a short-term fix. They have since paved it, but it was one of those situations where we didn't have the money to do the paving on it. But the road was in such bad shape, and fortunately, everyone who lived on it, it was more or less a glorified camp road. All on big pickup trucks, and we said we can make it, your choices are in 2 years we can pave it, or 3 years we can pave it. Or we can make it gravel today and we'll pave it in a couple of years, and it was unanimous of the group that we return it to gravel. So that at least it was a smoother surface than it currently was.
Well, I look at it more like from a scheduling point of view, if you have a road that you know needs a lot of work. And you rip the asphalt out, it gives you a chance to work on it, it's gonna be tore up when you do construction anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, and some of these dead end roads, Putney Road is a perfect example of that. That thing is so heaved up and it's trash.
Yeah.
Like that was a dirt road and it should have stayed a dirt road, because it's easier to fix that way.
Right.
It was never built properly.
And we have a
in the
nice
first
new
place.
grader, so.
We have a
you can
grader
go
that we
grade
have.
it 4 times a year.
And how much money are you gonna spend per capita for that road? Like how
Right.
many people are actually gonna use that dead end road? And how many hundreds of thousands you're gonna put into it instead of addressing a road that thousands of cars drive over?
Right.
Right, I think,
That's
Yeah, you're gonna have
definitely
to
more
dis-
global conversation, and definitely, I mean, it's definitely something that can be.
well, I just look
This
at like.
comes from a resident that uses that road, so
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe gravel road assessments as well.
I don't think I've ever been down that road.
Me either, where is it? No, I'm just kidding.
Gravel roads have their own issues, so it's not something to do lightly. I
Mm.
guess in the case, in the scenario that we had, we used the underlying material is good. The hard part about the scenario of trying to make a road gravel for a short term, if you don't know what that underlying material is, if it's not adequate, then suddenly you've created a crisis for yourself where you're gonna have to pave it now.
Well, can we do it internally, right? So can you use Donnie and, I'm shorting his name right now.
Jerry.
Jerry to run the grader and the dozer and excavator and resurface the road, and then when it's ready, not resurface, but do the subsurface, and then when it's ready, have lay asphalt on it.
Oh, you mean if it was brought back to gravel and then,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, you could.
And do it yourself instead of hiring it all out. Yeah, I think that's why it's so ridiculous, right? You're paying profit margin on top of profit margin. And if you do some of this stuff yourself, if you have the talent, it's about people, you can always get the equipment.
One thing you could do is, and sometimes you do this before you reclaim, is do test pits, see what the base is. And so then you could see what, you would know ahead of time, like, yeah, the base is pretty good, and then, you know, they went down pretty well. And then you could take, you know, you could just take the surface off and not have to add as much as, well, you have to actually take out a bunch of, you know, fines and.
Right.
Yeah, certainly not a fix for all the very poor roads, but in certain scenarios, it.
Yeah, but I've worked with several communities. I mean, when I worked with the city of Lewiston, our crews would prep roadways in advance for paving, so we would just did the asphalt on them. I will say that as the engineer in charge of those projects, it was a little more challenging for me to get our crews to do exactly what we wanted. But at the same time, it was a way to save money. Created scheduling issues sometimes is the only downside to it, because if the contractor has an open window where, for whatever reason, because the interesting thing with DOT funding is that sometimes projects get shut down by no fault of the contractor. And, you know, so it's a scenario where they go to you because they got kicked off the DOT job. They may find themselves with a 2-day window where they can do paving, so if that road's not prepped for them, then they're not gonna be able to do it, they're gonna jump to something else. So that is the only downside to that, is if they own the prep, then they would be working with their crew or their sub to get that prepped in advance of them. You know, so it's done at their will rather than your will.
Any other questions for Ryan?
Very helpful, thank you.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, and one thing I'll say is if anyone comes up with questions after I leave, which will probably will, feel free to have Jack email. He's not afraid to. So,
I know that about it.
and I think, and we didn't mention it, but I think the last deliverable we owe you is a map of all your streets color coded based on the paving condition index. So we will,
Yeah,
Get
that's
that.
what I was envisioning, actually.
yeah, we already have
I mean,
that.
I think it's right here.
Well, it's listed there, but he was saying we could do it by map, so.
I
Yeah,
think, yeah,
Isn't it?
I don't think we have the map, is the map in there?
yeah, but
that's
it's,
on.
yeah, you just,
Is it color coded the street?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
it's
Cool.
very small scale, so
Yeah.
if we could get it, I guess.
Yeah, so if you just like.
Yeah, it was probably just the way it was sent, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
can get that to you as a copy, and then obviously we'll create the big PDF. of
So when
that
people
you
come
can-
to us now, we can hold that map up.
if we know of.
Your road is right.
You're not satisfactory, back off.
You're-
It is rough, look, very poor.
If there are some roads that you kind of status as one way and we're pretty sure it's maybe another way, is that something you'd want for feedback or?
Yep, we can, and especially if we, you know, not necessarily to update the report now, but as we.
Yeah,
move forward with
okay.
The 5-year plan, that's
Yeah.
something that we could look into, that's, like I said, we always make the phone call to the public works director and
Right,
whoever the city administrator is to kind of, because they're the ones who take the complaints.
sure.
So that's why we usually start with those phone calls, and I know in 2 of the communities, our technician actually goes and drives the road with public works director, or in one case, it's a road commissioner, but same idea.
Yeah, and then when we actually have a proposal for the streets that should be done in a given year, that would come to the council and you basically approve the, you know, 2026 or 2027 plan of actual roads that would be in the bid. And then we get the bid out, and just, you mentioned timing, about the earlier the better. And what I found is that if you try to bid this in the spring, like May, June, a lot of the contracts are already booked. And you might not even get as many bidders, and pencils might not be as sharp, and then you get put to the end of the list, and what we found is trying to bid it now. You know, you're on the front end.
You're already borderline too late.
Yeah, borderline too late, but the earlier, the sooner you do, then the more people that aren't booked would bid, you know, it still might get pushed towards the end, but at least you might get more bidders. The ones that are still trying to get booked as fast as they can.
Yeah.
And
So I
so,
think if it becomes feasible as plans progress, really the optimum time for municipalities to bid is really October. October, November, before the holidays, because the contractors are wrapping up their major projects, they don't have anything on the books for the spring. So they'll be more aggressive on those. All the contracts we write have what's called an asphalt escalator in them. So if the price of liquid asphalt goes up or it goes down, you pay based on what the price it does at the date it places. So, you know, that takes the risk out of it for the contractor.
and the caveat is because you're obviously bidding it before you've got a budget passed. But the caveat is that, you know, contingent on the budget passing, right? So you're not really awarding it so much as you're basically not entering into the contract so much as you're basically awarding it contingent that the funding is available at the end of the budget process.
Depending on how you do your cycling, I mean, you also have the option, if your money's becoming available in July, to bid the next year, that project in, you know. So basically you would wait one cycle and then you bid.
Right.
You hold back,
Yeah,
take that money, hold back and then do it.
Yeah.
in the
super
spring,
early. Do it super early. We, in that scenario,
bid it out in the fall, but
bid it out in the
But
fall for the next year.
accomplish the work in the spring,
Yeah.
but it's the 26, 27, or 27, 28.
So when I first started with the city of Lewiston, the paving budget was right around $1 million. By the time I left, I had increased it to 3.8 million. Because I was showing such progress in our paving management that they were putting a lot of money into it. In that scenario, we're actually doing two bids. So we were doing a, October bid. And that was, we were trying to do all the roads that were gonna be, like overlays, shims, the easy jobs. And then in the February timeframe, we were bidding the mill and fills, the reclaims and the reconstructions, as fall work. So contractors who were trying to fill out their plate for the year were kind of going after those. The reason Jack says right now is when we're starting to get into that time of year when it gets more challenging is because DOT ends up putting out essentially all of their paving in 2 waves. So the first wave usually hits a couple of weeks after the work plan has been approved, which just went live Monday with DOT. So that means in the next couple of weeks, you're gonna see DOT start flooding the market on paving projects. They usually start with the light capital program. So those are the ones that are like the easy paving jobs. Those will come out hot and heavy in whatever regions they're paving. I honestly don't know if they're paving or what they're paving in this region this year. I know in southern Maine, they're paving the 2 high communities, so I'm already have my bids in, luckily. But I knew that those were on the horizon for them. So the communities that we have master service agreements on, we always follow to try to make sure we know what DOT is gonna be doing the following year. So that we get any work we need to get done in advance.
Mhm.
So it's just trying to stay that one step ahead so that you're not getting caught later on.
Great. All right, thank you very much, Ryan. I will look for. No, any other comments on resolution 2611? Hearing none, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 11, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2611 passes. Moving on to resolution 2612, Nicole.
Resolved that the town council approved the RFP for interim financing for capital improvement.
Look for a motion, look for a motion from the council.
I go back to my phone like this time. Your side too? I make a motion that we adopt resolution 2612.
Moved and seconded. Jack, wanna give a quick note of this?
Yeah, so, there's basically 2 phases of financing. One is interim financing. This is construction on all the water and sewer. Sewer on Main Street, Highway Street, Birchwood. We have the construction phase and then have the long-term phase. And so, right now we're in the construction phase. And the bond bank is not able to be the interim financer for that. And so typically, and it's the same with like USDA, you always have to bid that. But in this case, we need to bid, or put out the bid for, a lender to basically carry the construction phase of the utility work. And then the bond bank would come in and be the long-term, lender for it, so. And I printed off another one because the one that I sent out in the packet basically had one project on it. And this is interim financing for all three. This is 3.876750. Would be the amount we need to authorize for the interim financing.
So it's nothing different than what we already approved. It's just-
Right, actually, the bond authorization, or the top line number that you probably remember is 4.2, but that's because there's actually some, ARPA, it's ARPA money, not ARPA, but, SEDS money, there's grant money in there that we don't have to include in the bond rank, so, yeah, this is the same as what you've already seen, actually.
Just a different way to fund it, or if we want to approve it. Are there any questions for Jack regarding resolution 2612? Hearing none, I sense we're ready to vote. All those in favor of resolution 2612, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2612 passes. Moving on to resolution 2613, Nicole.
Resolved that the town council approve the declaration of official intent of the town council of the town of Pittsfield.
Look for a motion from the council.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 26-13.
Moved and seconded, Jack, this is. So the resolution of intent is basically so that we are still able to pay, pay recs that are coming in, while we're, getting our income financing lined up. So I'll send the RFP out. The deadline will be probably a week before our March meeting. So we'll have we'll award the income financing to someone on the 17th. And then basically that's gonna act like a line of credit. It's basically a drawdown. So we'll only really borrow it, what we need as we need it. But in the meantime, we're gonna have pay recs due before we get that line going. So we still need to be able to pay those. So basically, I checked with our bond counsel, and I know there's a formality to basically declare that, yes, we will pay the expenses, as they come. And we had to anticipate a maximum potential lag time between what would come in to pay and when we'd have it lined up, which we think is probably more than we need to actually do, but that's just to make sure we can pay things on time.
Okay.
In a nutshell.
Right, are there any questions for Jack regarding 2613? Hearing none, I sense we're ready to vote. All those in favor of resolution 2613, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2613 passes. Moving on to resolution 2614, Nicole.
Resolved that the town council approve the proposed fiscal year 2026-2027 budget calendar.
Look for a motion from the council.
Make a motion, we review the schedule, adopt the schedule,
Adopt it.
even if we're gonna change some dates maybe?
Yeah, because then.
Adopt it and then we'll amend it.
Okay, I make a motion that we adopt resolution 2614.
Moved and seconded. It's self-explanatory, putting forth a budget calendar for budget season. Jack's kind of laid it out, I guess.
I did a version too, because I sent one out with a packet on Thursday.
Is this different from that?
And we had April pretty stacked back to back to back. And I remember last year that during school vacation week, I think we actually ended up canceling the meeting because there were people that just had plans that week. So
Right,
I kind of messed around with it today and I came up with a version 2, which it keeps one meeting a month, except April, we'd have 2, but we could stay away from school vacation week.
Mhm.
And we'd end up with, what we'd have to do is slide, would be basically meet on the 14th and the 28th would be 2nd and 4th.
Mhm.
That avoids 1st and 3rd, it avoids school vacation week, and then we would do our last budget meeting on May 19th. Then we could set everything to public hearing and we'd wrap it up in June, just the way we did this year. We actually ended up using June.
Yeah, I didn't even realize you reworked that. That works a lot better for,
Yeah.
for my schedule anyway. I don't know if other people have.
Probably
Trouble, but
helps anybody with kids, I would guess.
yeah, this is helpful.
Does anybody see any issues? Obviously. Things come up, might not make it, might make it, but
The 14th.
we all have final say, we all have final say at the end anyway. So it's not. The end of the world if somebody misses one of those, or.
I can zoom in on the 14th if needed, but the rest I can be present.
Everybody good
Good.
with it? All right, since we're ready to vote, all those in favor of resolution 2614, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, resolution 2614 passes.
We'll use version 2 as.
Version 2, yeah, that would be great.
Perfect.
Discussion items, no public comments, because we don't have any public. Moving on to. Outside comments. Pete, any comments?
No comment there.
No comment. Nate, no comment. Natalia,
No, for meeting, I think the pavement plan is incredibly helpful. It makes me feel very confident. So thanks for organizing that.
yes, great, thank you. Eric, no comments, and I will echo that, the paving plan was well thought out, well done. Look forward to the challenge of implementing that. We'll see how that goes, but at least we got something to work towards, and hopefully counselors in the future will stick to it as well as they can. Also, thanks to Russell for all his work with dangerous buildings and that stuff, which is probably not the easiest of things to deal with, but appreciate all that work. Look forward to cleaning up some of these ongoing eyesores in the town, so that'll be nice. Yeah, I guess that's about it. I would look for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
In the phone needs a bunch of signatures.
Yeah.
Needs some signatures.
You don't need.
Yeah. Main municipal bond, so.
I did the lines, a good little fever. Don't have to come in. This is the.
What's the, what are the interest rates like? Are they getting back down to?
Those are within 2 hours.